Whoever thought that Aussie Man Reviews would be the voice of reason? A lot of you are watching posts coming out of Iran right now and feeling confused, so I want to explain something clearly. Iranians are not naive. People inside Iran understand geopolitics. They don't think foreign powers are benevolent, and they don't need outsiders lecturing them about good actors and bad actors. They've lived long enough under surveillance, repression, and state violence to know how the world works. Here is the reality. We are watching a violent theocracy that has massacred our people for decades finally get hit. And many Iranians inside Iran feel a painful kind of relief. Not because war is good, not because anyone is good, but because when you lived with a devil on your neck for 45 plus years, any crack in its machinery feels like air. And in the real world, dictatorships don't fail because we keep our ideology pure. They fail because when the machinery is weakened, isolated, and unable to fund repression. That is the brutal reality people inside Iran are living, after every peaceful rout and paying for it with their blood. So when you see Iranians reacting the way they are, understand this. It's survival. The strike has already happened. People inside Iran are being forced to choose between unbearable options because the regime has left them no clean path out. Please stop projecting tidy moral frameworks onto people living inside hell. Listen to Iranians, amplify their voices, center the victims, not your theories, and stop regurgitating regime propaganda. The regime must go. Haha, yeah, you're right. Aussie Man's not an Iranian. But you know who is? His partner. I hope that counts as amplification, Reza. That this weakness we're projecting onto Iran from the West is absolutely atrocious. It's atrocious. As if for some reason we get to decide what suffering the Iranian people are willing to endure to get the freedom that they want. And if the uprising fails, we aren't the ones who will pay the price. They are. All we can do is hope to help. When you take a job, and I don't care how big or small that job is, you take responsibility for everything that job represents. Everything. Every little thing. If you lead the Canadian military, you're responsible for everything that goes right or wrong with the military. If you run for prime minister, you are responsible for everything that goes right or wrong with the country. If you're the president of the United States of America, you're asking for the most thankless job in the history of mankind, and you have to do it with a smile because all the people not insane enough to want that job are going to whip out their doctorates in geopolitical politics the moment you do anything that gives them even a toehold in making you seem like the devil. I didn't know that my entire friend group were experts in Iranian and Russian politics until this weekend. Holy crap. Personally, I think that if a hostile nation says they want to kill you, it is okay to kill them first. That's allowed. I look forward to watching everyone who thinks it's not to scramble onto the elevator as the doors close once they realize their expertise on Iranian politics may not be as solid as they think it is. March 3rd, 2026. This is the Comic Reporter. I'm a little fired up today, and I'm also not an expert in geopolitics, nor do I claim to be. I'm just a dude on the internet who sees the incredible amount of experts who can rotate between topics so shamelessly as they project their hot takes onto hot button issues because that's what gets clicks. And I get it. I get it. But listen, you can hit all the buttons on the elevator control panel all you want. If you forget to close the door, you're still useless. I think everyone out there at some point in their life has lived in an apartment or has stayed in a hotel. Everybody can identify this. Everybody knows that when you ride in an elevator with more than one passenger, there is always that one person who takes control of those buttons on the elevator. That is the person that asks you what floor you need, and your answer is always, 3. Because even though you've lived in that building for 10 years, or you visited this hotel 5 times, it's hard to remember which floor you're going to. So you have to think about it. And that person then takes all the floor numbers from everyone and punches them all into the panel because that's their job. That's what they've signed up for. They are the master of the control panel. But the risk to the rest of the elevator of letting one person take control of that control panel is that this very well could be that one person out of a million who hits all the floors requested and then just sits there waiting for the doors to close on their own because there's no button that says door closed. And why do they do that? Because they're always afraid of leaving someone behind. I guess they're just being nice. Not like the rest of us are in a rush to get home. Hit the door close button. Look, the reason we gave that person control of the panel is that so we, as a group, didn't have to touch each other any more than absolutely necessary. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's gross. This isn't an adult movie. We don't want to get any closer together than we already are. No one wants to touch that panel if they don't have to. So that's why we gave you the job. So you all sit there looking at the door for what feels like an eternity, wondering why no one is hitting the door close button. That is the longest 5 seconds you'll ever spend wondering who put that person in charge of the elevator buttons. Look, I know all of you are going to say, well, just lean over and push the button yourself if you're so impatient. I'm not in charge of the damn buttons. That person is in charge. If you're going to take the initiative to be in charge of the elevator and ask me what floor I want to go to, then also be prepared to hit the close button so that I can get there. Don't forget to close the damn doors. What are you afraid of? Elevators are designed to stop closing the door if any stragglers decide that they want to jump in while the door is closing. You're not cutting anyone in half. The door doesn't slam shut. This isn't a nuclear attack. You aren't damning someone to an eternity of waiting on the ground floor just because they missed this specific elevator. But I'll say this, there's nothing quite as passive aggressive as reaching through that group of sweaty, annoyed group of travelers and locals, looking at that button, hoarding control freak just directly in the eye and pressing that door close button right in front of their face with a big grin that says, don't worry, I'll handle this. I understand that the person who takes charge of the elevator control panel isn't getting paid. They're just trying to be nice. But we have made a social contract with that person. I tell you what floor I'm on, you push the button, and then I assume that you're as eager to get back to your room as I am to get back to mine. What are you extending? Why are you extending equal opportunity to everyone who is not yet on the elevator to get on if they so choose? That is not an equal opportunity elevator. This is my elevator. This is your elevator. Anyone not on the elevator can wait their damn turn. And look, I worked my butt off to get on the vertical conveyor. I saw that door closing. I armboard that door open, risking literal life and limb to get on this death trap amusement park ride with all those Disney adult rejects. And I intend to spend as little time in that cable suspended death trap as possible. If someone else wants to get on this claustrophobic trip to the top floor, they are perfectly welcome to exactly what I did to get on it. That person, that control freak in charge of those buttons is the same person who is right now telling you that you need to somehow identify with the Iranian and Ukrainian people. They're holding that door open until you agree with them. And your job is to step in and hit that door close button. Now you don't have to. And the question you need to ask yourself is, how or why would I do that? Let me frame this properly. You want to identify with Iranians? You're at home. It's late at night. Maybe you're making tea. Maybe you're getting your pajamas on. Maybe you're just finishing up reminding your wife that she still loves you. That's your house. You're inside it. No one else is allowed inside it except your wife, and that's only as long as she isn't trying to kill you and the dishes are done. It's a really low bar, but at least it's a bar. And then just as you're ready to lay down for the night, some dude with a gun comes banging on your door, and that dude is chanting, "Death to whatever your name is." You've got a complete psychopath standing on your front porch, waving a gun, threatening to end your life. And are you taking that seriously? Are you calling the police? Are you telling the police to consider the consequences of their actions? Are you holding the door to try to de-escalate the situation? Are you trying to understand their point of view? Because if you are, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Clearly, this psychopath standing on your front lawn, waving a gun, doesn't care what happens to them. Clearly, they have taken into consideration that they might not come back from this. So clearly, no, this is not a person who is open to negotiation. From that point forward, it's either you or them. And when police deal with the issue, they had better keep that in mind. They have decided to go out on their own terms, and their goal is to take you with them. And I know that's hard to understand because this is an incredibly rare thing in Canada, and you think it couldn't happen here. But you know where it does happen? Iran. That's how Iran works. The leadership and the power structure around it is literally suicidal. They gather 50 of their top officials with their supreme leader in the same building despite warnings from a sitting US senator and said, here we are, send the missile. Killing them doesn't create martyrs. Death is the goal. Death is the reward. And the more violent the death, the greater the reward. That's what they want. They taunt and they provoke and they push and they prod until they have no choice but to take out the threat. That's how the IRGC works. Just like that dude waving the gun around on your front lawn, waiting for the cops to show up and take him down because that's what he wants. The only question is how many people will he take with him? I'm sorry, but that's the reality. International law doesn't matter when the goal of a regime is to literally kill everyone. Did the US help incite riots in Iran? Yeah, probably, most likely. But you can't incite people to revolt if they are happy. You can't do it. If people are settled and enjoying their time and their lives in the country, they don't revolt. Not in Iran, because in Iran they can and do because in Iran that can and does get you killed. That's what happens. In Canada, we think that someone honking their horn too loud calls for a state of emergency. People go to jail for that. You have no grasp on Iran. You have nothing to compare this to. None. You can do all the reading and guessing and moralizing about a girl's grammar school being hit by a missile. Maybe Iran should have thought of that before they decided to wish death on the United States of America. The school is a tragedy. But you know what I've noticed? The casualties in that school started at 120 girls. Then it was 130. Then it was 140. Pretty soon it'll be 5 million dead schoolgirls all murdered in cold blood by US soldiers with sickles just cutting everyone down without mercy. Just war crime after war crime. And you know what? It makes me doubt there was ever a school at all. Why would you build a girls' grammar school right beside a military base? What is that about? I can only think of a few reasons to do that. None of them are good. And quite frankly, if that's what Iran thinks of its grammar schools, that's up to them. If you want to use your grammar school as a human shield, that's tragic. But it's tragic that you are putting your own civilians in harm's way to make your enemy look like genocidal maniacs. That's exactly what I expect an extremist regime to do. I don't believe you, Al Jazeera. Maybe Frank is that fragile. And no shade to Frank Vaughn. He's a friend of the show, by the way. Don't tell him that. I love that man. He does great work. Don't tell him I said that. I am not that fragile, even if you are. And yes, I'd also expect an extremist regime to gather in a single building and just wait for death before facing any living consequences. These dudes didn't go to heaven. These dudes were shipped express straight to the bowels of hell. I'm sorry, guys. That's how it is. That's how evil works. When you build a society around the threat of death, everyone expects death. That's how that works. And this is how elevators work. I have never once claimed to be an expert. I just observe and I riff. That's all I do. I promise you only the most accurate take I can give with the information I've spent maybe 2 minutes researching. That's it. That's all. I don't read. I don't obsess over YouTube. I limit my news attention because I value my sanity and my audience's sanity. That's what I am. But even I can see how this works. I am the guy who will hit every button in the elevator and then close the damn door, even if some of the slower people are left behind. That's what Pete Hegseth did. Closing the door is decisive. Some people get left behind. If people don't like that, that's fine. They would like the alternative to closing the door even less, which is just sitting there in a hot, stuffy, exposed, full elevator no one will close the door on. The Iran regime showed up, threatened the free world with every epithet they could think of, then grouped up and died together exactly as they wanted. There are no martyrs when your entire organization believes that the ultimate reward for your life gets better the more violent your death became. So if you want to sit around and tell me that I have to look at this through the eyes of an Iranian, fine. I now understand. that they don't believe in martyrdom. They don't believe in peace. They don't believe in the West's right to exist. And I now understand that most Iranians are peaceful people who have been put in harm's way by their own country. And those who recognize that understand the risks when they lost thousands, proving they wanted that to change. And that's proof enough for me.